5 on Tuesday, February 3rd. Thank you all for coming. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we'll start off, our first order of business is the public hearing. What we'll do is we'll review the proposed budget for 2026, the proposed revenues for 2026, and the proposed warrant article, list of warrant articles for 2026. And then the public hearing will end, and we will continue to have a meeting. Members of the public, it's an open public meeting. You're welcome to stay if you want to, but you don't have to. And we'll go over a few things, a final approval of the bottom line budget and revenues and our recommendations on the warrant articles, and then some administrative things with minutes. So, I don't know, I'm happy that we have at least one person here in the public. Thank you for coming. Even if not, we have, I think that there might be people watching us on live stream. So we will hold the meeting, but you're the only one here to ask questions, so feel free. I tend to be fairly informal, so if you have a question or if I'm going too fast or too slow, please speak up and we'll try to adjust to get you the stuff you need. You're the primary person because you're the only person here in person.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Right off the bat?
Yeah, please go
So
ahead.
I just came because it's good we have these public hearings, and I don't have any big questions, but I thought, well, it'd be a good chance to know what's going on with the budget before the town meeting. But if there's nobody else on Zoom and I'm the only one here and you could suspend all of this, I would be happy to.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I don't think we can suspend it by state law. We have to hold a public hearing.
Then I'm happy to
and
be
go over
here.
Can I just add?
Please.
And I will add, some people watch the video after.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
just try and get their answers before they go to town meeting, so.
Great.
So typically what we do and what I'm planning to do is we'll go through the budget basically section by section. So you have that. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it ahead of time.
No.
But before we do that, I guess, and I want to kind of say, in the past, it tends to be Paul doing a lot of talking. If the other budget committee members have a comment, if you think that I'm not saying something that needs to be said or saying something you don't agree with, please get my attention and I'll stop. If somebody wants to take a section or two to give me a rest, I'm happy with that also. Before we start, I'll just say, so big picture on where things go is that the warrant article that'll be on the ballot at the March town meeting is ready for $10,489,158, which is roughly a 5.8% increase over the number that was approved at last year's meeting. In general, we see the select board made a decision that our town employees should get a 4% raise instead of a 3% raise to keep up with the cost of living and be competitive with other towns so that we don't lose people, hopefully. We've seen a significant increase that affects a lot of different lines with health insurance. For some reason, we've also seen that the FICA and the Medicare numbers have gone up.
The
percentages have gone up. So that affects a number of lines.
And that's a federally big.
And that's a federal thing, and it's not just the town. As you said, Joe, you help run a business. You see that in other places too.
Yep.
Like everyone else, I think the town is seeing that the cost of materials are going up. The cost of training classes are going up. The state and the federal government are changing rules to require more training and more certification for our employees, so we have to send them off to do some training. I think more, maybe not, certainly not double, but what I'm hearing for a couple of departments in particular, that load keeps, it's not just more expensive because the classes are more expensive, it's also more expensive because we're having to have more, pay for more hours of training, because the state, I think it's mostly the state, but it could be the federal, I don't know. I think that's kind of the big picture as I think about it. Am I missing anything? Anyone else on the committee think of anything else that should be added? Go ahead, Brian.
I just want to add a couple general parameters.
Yeah, please, that's what I want to do before we get into details.
Generally, budget committees and select boards are conservative in nature in putting out a plan for spending and revenues. So for folks, ladies that's here, folks that might be listening, a budget, even though it may be up percentage-wise, a budget is never 100% spent. So the budget that you see, even though it's a little bit higher than last year, every dollar in the budget does not get spent during the budget cycle. The other side of the coin, the budget is offset by revenues, and it's prudent in revenue forecasting to be somewhat conservative in nature. And when one looks back at the actuals versus the revenues that are estimated, generally the actuals are somewhat higher than what's being estimated. So I just want to point out that the gap between the budget and the revenues is realistically closer than they appear on the papers before us tonight.
I think maybe just to add to that too, important note, especially in kind of government finance, is like the municipality can't overspend its budget in total at least. And so kind of to your point of being conservative in our approaches to budget, it's really important. If they do have, needs above and beyond what's appropriated by town meeting, it will require a special town meeting, and there's all kinds of additional things that have to happen. So again, just emphasizing the conservative nature of the municipal budget is really important.
Okay, thank you. That all makes sense. That's normal. So I guess what you kind of said, but I want to say it specifically. When you see that the number you're voting on is $10 million, it doesn't mean that the town, it definitely does not mean that the town is going to set a tax rate to raise $10 million. That's not the case. So there's two reasons. One is, as Brian said, there's also revenues. So you raise taxes to fund the difference between the revenues you can bring in and the money that you're spending out. The other point is that this budget also includes the water and sewer department, and the water and sewer department are what's called enterprise funds. So they're kept separate, they're accounted for separately, they're required to be run on a break-even basis, and they're funded strictly through they might get some grants, but primarily they're funded through user fees. So the cost to run the water and the sewer department, you pay through your water and your sewer bill if you have one, and not through your property taxes. Christina, did I miss anything? Is there anything you would want to add to that? And I'll say the same thing for the department heads. Again, if you think that there's something that we're not saying that should be shared with the public, please grab my attention and we'll stop and give you a chance to share that. So now we've got a number of sections to go through, and I'm going to try to do them relatively quick, but still handle them all. So starting on the first page, the first section is what we call the executive department. It's got a number of 4130. The proposed budget for 2026 is $250,763. It's up about 2% over last year. I don't think that there's any significant changes or any significant increases on any of the lines in there. So I didn't really prepare any comments. Did you have any questions, or we can go on to the next section?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So the next section is, it's labeled election, registration, and vital statistics. Years ago, it used to be called tax collector, town clerk. It's section 4140. It is proposed for the 26th fiscal year to have a budget of $214,756. It's actually down from the 25 budget by a little less than a percentage, 1.5%. I don't think there's no major changes. I don't have any comments. I do later on, but in this section. The only thing I will say is actually we do see a raise in expenses because for 2025, we only had one election, which was the municipal election in March. And in 2026, we'll have 3 elections. We'll have the town election in March, we'll have the state primary in September, and we'll have the state general election in November. And although every election costs money. Go ahead.
I will just add that in this budget, for the public that are listening, there are new people in these roles, so that's why those adjustments in their pay helped reduce the budget as a whole, because they are new people in those positions, so.
Right, new people with less experience don't make as much money as the people who they replaced.
Right.
Thank you. Not hearing any questions, we'll move on to the next section, which is financial administration. That's number 4150. So this is basically the finance department. And the proposed budget is $219,492. It's up a little over 7%. And I will comment, I'll take some questions, but the comments I'll make is that we see there's a pretty good increase in the salary for the human resource welfare position. So that's something that the town has reorganized. That used to be 2 different, 2 years ago, that was 2 different people. We're trying to combine those. The position actually is empty at the moment, but the position has been posted. I don't know the exact details, but I know the town is preparing to do some interviews and expecting to get that filled relatively quickly.
We'll be meeting with the select board Thursday.
Okay. There's also an increase on, so that was line 120. On line 301, there's a pretty good increase for the audit. I don't have the notes in front of me, but evidently there's an additional audit requirement. Go ahead.
I just add, there is a one-time audit required because of the Central Street project that we're doing with water and sewer. So part of the increase is in this budget and the other part is in the sewer budget. But that costs us more money to do the audit, so.
So for the members of the public, basically a significant portion of the Central Street pumping station and the replacement of the forced main is being funded through a federal grant. And Joe, you know more about this than I do, but my understanding is when you exceed a certain amount of money with federal dollars, you've got additional requirements, which include.
Yeah, so if you receive more than $750,000 in federal grant funds in a given year, you have to complete what's called a single audit. And that's just a requirement of the federal government for anybody who receives funds of that nature, of that significance. So it's an extra audit step on top of your traditional annual financial audit. They do some additional work solely for the purpose of the federal government.
Right, so the fact that we have to spend more on an audit is bad, but the fact that we have to do it because we got over $750,000 in federal grant is good. And then there's also line 396 went up a good amount, and that's for training. And I think the idea again is that with welfare and human resources coming under here, that there's going to be some more opportunities to train people for some more expertise to continue to provide good services. Did I get that right?
Yes, we did zero out, if you remember, the welfare admin budget.
Yes, we'll get to that later.
We moved that into this line, though.
Okay. So, did that make sense? Any questions? No? Okay. The next section is reevaluation of property. So that's section 4152. That is a proposed budget of $171,960, and it is pretty close to level funded, slightly down by $1,000, or less than $1,000. So there's no real change there. I don't have any other comments. Anyone have comments or questions? Okay, we'll keep moving. The next section is legal expenses. That's section 4153. That's level funded. That's $80,000 in the 26 proposed 26 budget. It's $80,000 in the current budget. I will comment that we talked about that when you're planning this now, you don't know what other people are going to do and what court cases are going to come up and what lawyer requirements are going to be. So this is always a bit of a swag, but we're hopeful that no one is going to surprise us and that this is enough money.
I spent over in 2025, but it's the first time.
Oh,
Darn it. By $126, so.
So well done.
It's the first time since you've been.
It's the first
I
time
remember
since
this
I've
line
been
being
the town administrator,
Much
yes.
higher in years past.
I know, the board made comments saying, oh my God, I've never seen it that low.
Yeah.
I'm like, we still have bills coming in.
So that's one of those things, again, where we do what we have to do.
Yep.
And we budget hopefully for the right amount, but the town will have to spend what it has to spend. The next section is called personal administration. It's section 4155. And this is basically where the majority of the costs for healthcare benefits for our employees is. And that's why this section has a big increase. So the proposed amount for 2026 is $837,287. And it is not quite, but close to a 10% increase. And that is almost all due to the fact that what is it? It's not health services, but whatever the company, whatever the
Health trust.
health trust, the quote we have for insurance has gone up, and I think all of us see that in our own personal affairs, so it's not worth me trying to explain because. But that's it. Line 210, which is health insurance for our employees, is the great majority of the increase in this budget section. And again, I will say we asked, I think also I think I heard that the select board is interested in this. Is this the one where we said we probably next year will think about going out for quotations? Am I remembering right?
Yeah, I think we run July 1st to June 30th. So we would probably go out next year, but we won't be able to change it if we're going to make a change.
I just want the people to know that we think we've got the best supplier for our needs, but like any good business, every few years, even if you think you've got the best, you want to put together a bid package and go see what other people have just to make sure there's not something better out there. So that is on the list of the things that the town is planning to do.
Actually, sorry, we would go out this year.
26.
We would go out this year, yes, to see if we can lower the costs because of the way the year runs. If we were, so, yeah.
I didn't want to get into promising anything because I don't know what's going to happen. I just want people to know that we are looking to see if there's any opportunities to make further reductions in this.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really important to just say too that, like a 10% increase in our health insurance is actually pretty good this year, all things considered, compared to a lot of employers, so.
That's only half.
Yeah.
It is a higher increase, but we do the budget for half because ours doesn't change till halfway through the year, so.
But it also, last year compared to that, the first half of the year was the previous year,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, not hearing any additional questions and feeling I'm starting to beat this to death, I will move on. I told you I'm informal. So the next section is the planning board, which is section 4191. The recommended amount for the 26 budget is $10,301, and this is a significant increase of a little more than 10%. And my notes say that, in particular, if you look on line 310, that's basically, I think it's $1,000, which is the whole increase. The planning board wants to create a ordinance for solar power, and they want some money to hire a consultant to help them get that right. Did I say that good enough, Joanne?
You sure did.
Okay. So, and I think, again, we try to look for places to cut, but that kind of makes sense. So, one of the other things, to just not get too distracted, one of the things that is a little bit challenging, at least for me when I go through this, is like a lot of people, I use the column that talks about percent changes to try to flag what's worth looking into. But sometimes when some of these departments, you're looking at, even if it's a big percentage change, you know, when it goes from $200 to $300, it's a 50% change, and so you say, oh, that's a crisis, and then you look and you're like, oh, it's $100. That's not worth a whole lot of time and effort. So you also have to look at the dollar amounts, not just the percentage changes, to see where the challenges and the opportunities are. All right, thank you for putting up with that for me. Not hearing any questions, we'll go to the next section, which is the zoning boards. That's section 4192, and they've asked for level funding. So their proposed budget for 2026 is $2,450, which is the exact same amount they're budgeted for in 2025. So I don't think there are any questions, and I don't have any comments. The next section actually is going to be interesting. So that's the tax map. That's section 4193. So the recommended amount is somebody say, sorry. My lines here don't seem to be lined up. $19,375 is the recommended amount for 2026. And that is a significant increase over last year. So that last year was like $87.50. So the budget more than doubled. And so that certainly is something, as a member of the public, would catch my eye. So if you look on line 394, there's a line there for updates and upgrades. And I think the thing to point here is what we heard from the department was that two things. One is that we've bought software which we use to do a number of things. And this is going to add significant capability to the system to be able to do more things. And maybe even as important to note is that this is not this is not going to be an ongoing fee. This roughly $10,000 is a one-time fee to add all these additional capabilities to the system to allow us to do more things and provide more information to taxpayers. So it's a significant amount of money, but I think that it's a significant benefit. So we have agreed to it. Anyone else want to comment on that? Okay. Not hearing any more, I will move to the next section, which is general government, section 4194, and that is a proposed amount of $445,147. It's about 1.3% percentage increase over last year, and I think that's primarily due to general inflation things. There's nothing added, there's no new line, there's no huge change on any line, there's just a bunch of small changes on a bunch of lines. Anything you wanted to add to that? Anyone else have anything? Janet, if I'm going too fast, tell me, but I'm going to keep
No,
moving.
but I do have a question
Yeah, please,
specific.
go ahead.
What did 4194815, the second to the last item?
Yep,
Newfound area access, what does that mean?
please, Christina.
Newfound Area Access is actually our media manager position, so Kate, but we do get offsetting funds from a cable franchise fee currently that helps offset it. It doesn't offset it fully anymore, but it does offset part of it. So.
Okay.
And as a municipal, a lot of our meetings have to be publicly available,
Yeah.
broadcasted,
Yeah.
et cetera, so.
Okay.
Yep. So the website, the record, he also handles when we need him for other special events as well and training for employees as well. So.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Janet?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, yep. All right, so that's for general government. We'll go to the next section. That's cemeteries. Section number is 4195, and that has been requested to be level funded, so the proposed amount for the 2026 budget year is $800. We have a library trust, we have a cemetery trustee here in the room if anyone has any questions, but I don't expect we do. Okay. The next section is insurance for property liability, which is $41.96. The proposed amount is $80,779. That is about a 4.5% increase, and that's insurance, so 4.5% increase, that's basically the equivalent of your house insurance, is the way I think about it. Somebody else thinks different, feel free to speak up, but I guess car insurance too. Car insurance on our vehicles, insurance on our buildings, insurance on our property, on our material possessions. No questions? Okay. So the next one is advertising and regional associations, which is $41.97. That is proposed of $8,109. It is a fair increase. It's about a 7.5% increase. This is basically, not basically, this is, I'm not sure if this is the right way to say it, but the way I think about it is this is basically membership fees for two organizations, the Lake Region Planning Group, no, it's not what it is, Lake Region Planning something.
Commission.
Commission, thank you, and the New Hampshire Municipal Association. And this is not something that we really negotiate on. They tell us what the annual dues are, and we have a choice of paying it and being a member, or not paying it and dropping out. And we get service from both of those groups, so we continue to be wanting to be members. Does that make sense? Okay. So those sections where they all start with 4,100 is basically, could be grouped into what we call our general government section. And now we move, the next section is going to be focusing on public safety. So our next department is from the public safety building, which is 4,200. Just for background, say 5 years ago, when we had a police department and a police headquarters and a fire department and a fire headquarters, the cost to run each of those buildings were part of the department. Now that we have a new public safety building that works for both departments, we've created this new department to run that building. So the proposed amount for the 2026 year is $30,900. This is actually a roughly 17% decrease from last year. And it's primarily due to the fact that the first year when we put the budget together, we didn't have any real experience with the buildings, so we were a bit conservative. It's turned out that the energy efficiency and the energy savings have been maybe even more than we originally anticipated. So there's been cuts in the amount of propane we have to buy and electricity we have to buy and a few other things. So, Chief, if I got something wrong there or if I'm missing something, please speak up. But I think that's a fair recap of where we are on this line. Make sense, Janet?
Yeah,
Okay.
impressive.
I'm not trying to pick on you. You're the only one here I can ask.
I'm doing my best. No, that's good.
All right, so the next section is the police department, which is 4,210. The recommended amount is $1,602,616, and that is a 7.25% increase over last year. And in my notes, I have 3 lines that I would bring to your attention. So line 143, which is services for doing prosecution work at the county courthouse, the Grafton County Courthouse in Haverhill. And the way it was described to us is it's a cooperative where a number of towns work to pay somebody to be there in Haverhill at the courthouse to do the work that we need done. The billing is based on our history, so the amount of services we used at 25 impacts the amount they want us to pay in 26, and we had more services. I think one of the things, if I'm speaking on a turn, please shut me down, but one of the things I heard the chief say, because we asked about this, is he said during the crisis, the health crisis and the pandemic 4 or 5 years ago, things kind of relaxed, and the department was seeing that when they brought complaints against people if they had gotten to the point where they were starting to be comfortable just not showing up for their court date and thinking they could get away with it. So the town has been more aggressive about saying, I need you to issue a bench warrant because this person was supposed to show up and they didn't, and that this service provides that work. Is that,
That's correct.
that's what I heard you
What's
say.
the line item in that?
It's line, it's line 143.
Well, okay, I got it, yeah.
It's a 3-year average.
So it's not
So
just
we-
25, it was the
Yeah.
last 3 years. on
Yeah,
that.
so we had a bunch of years that we were really low, so we were paying less. Now those years have caught up, so now the increase moving forward, there'll probably be an increase, but it shouldn't be a
Significant the way it
significant
was.
jump. Yeah. Hopefully.
But I think the thing, from the budget committee point of view, I certainly don't feel comfortable telling the chief that we don't want you to do those services and we're taking the money away from you. So if you're doing good services, I feel we have to provide the resources needed to allow you to do those services.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, so that was one of the lines, I had two more. So line 391, which is training. Again, I think that comes back to my general comment. It's both that the training, cost of the training courses, I think have gone up. And more importantly, I think you had said that state requirements for the training that officers have to take to keep their certification has increased. So even more than that the courses are expensive, they now need to go to more courses every year.
Correct. We have, I think, 16 more hours per officer this year that we have to do. Plus, last year, we had some budget issues, so we canceled a bunch of trainings for people, so now I'm trying to make up.
Right.
We canceled specialty trainings, they still got the training hours, but it was,
They're still certified, but you fell behind on some of the things that we
Yeah.
want to do to have a high-functioning force.
yeah.
So, speak up if you have a question. And then the third one I had was line 395, and that's basically the fee we pay for the dispatch services.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
190, certified special police, that's up 66%. What is that? Why?
That's part-time officers. So that line used to be like in the $10,000 range, but over the years, we've had less and less part-time officers working because there's less people willing to do it at a part-time. We've hired 2 people now, so they're starting to work a little bit more. So we try to get them to work more because then it's part-time pay instead of overtime pay. So we're hoping we can fill some shifts with a part-time
Is
person.
the police department fully staffed now?
Yes, we've been fully staffed for
It's
over
a
a
big
year now.
percent, but it's not a big dollar increase like.
That was the point I was gonna make, Janet. The reason I didn't put it on my list is I saw that it was a 66% increase, and then I looked at went from 1,500 to 2,500.
Yeah.
And kind of my threshold was 1,000, so it was right on the border on whether I would put it on my list or not, and I already had 3 things, so I decided.
I think we got down to like 500 like 3 years ago, and it was because we had nobody. But we left 500 in case we hired somebody. We've hired somebody who works here and there, is out on injury right now, but then we've had somebody else express that they're interested as well. So it's hopeful that we don't pay overtime for some stuff.
Yeah, it's an unclear item.
Yeah,
And it-
that name has been,
It's like,
it's been called that forever, I don't know why. It's when Barry Wingate was the chief here.
That is correct.
Yeah. Should probably just say part-time officer. It's a fancy name.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
yes, it does, thank you.
All right, so that's what I had for the police department. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to bring up for the public to be aware of? Okay, so we'll move to the next department, which is the fire department. That's section 4220. So we have a recommended budget for 2026 of $2,075,557. And that is roughly a 15% increase over last year. And there are a number of things going, and Chief, if I misspeak, please speak up quickly, but I think the biggest one to start with is lines 120 through 123. So, at last year's town meeting, there was a separate warrant article where we approved expanding the size of or the staffing level of the fire department to increase our ability to respond to ambulance calls. And those 4 people my understanding of those 4 people have been hired, but in the 2025 budget, they were basically hired halfway through the year. So you only see 6 months worth of salary. So now in 2026, when we're paying them 12 months of salary, there's a big increase on a percentage basis. So all 4 of those lines show big increases, and that's because they're new people and they didn't exist.
But
at
it's
that previous
entirely offset by revenue from the other towns, right?
Yes, correct.
Just want to make sure I put that up there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yep, that was part of the presentation that we heard from the chief at the town meeting last year, is that the other 3 towns have agreed to pay. So that's a big part of it, and thank you, Joe. The other 2 that I flagged were line 211, disability insurance. I don't know why that went up, but we saw that in a couple of places, that somehow whoever's providing us insurance has reevaluated and changed rates and.
Well, that will go up because you have 4 new positions.
Oh, that's also because we have 4 new people.
Right.
And it's the same thing so my third one, it's the same thing with line 391, the training went up quite a bit. And that's again, a combination, what we heard is that the department is bigger, so there's more people, and then I didn't take all notes, but people are going for higher levels of certification, so that all takes time and money. Chief, anything you wanted to add to my ramble there?
No, you certainly hit the big parts of it, and it is right important to note, so that's why when we look at revenues last year for the member fees or the subsidies that the contract towns pay us was $481,000 last year, which included that 6 months with the new positions, and it's $704,300 this year. So that's all being paid for as planned and promised by the contract towns. And then kind of also billing revenue's gone up really in the contract towns, because ours was probably even slightly down for Bristol calls. And so when you look at the overall impact, yes, it's a big increase to the budget, and it's far bigger than we've seen a department budget. But overall, kind of when you take out all those revenues and approximate, it's about a $37,000 increase. And then if you look at it realistically, that impact of the 4% raises that you already brought up is about $39,000. So throughout the rest of the operational budget, which is small compared to payroll, there's actually really a net decrease there to offset as much as we could. But yeah, revenue's good. Just the contracts alone, it's about a $950,000 worth of revenue that comes in to offset our ambulance service, which is huge.
It is huge. All right. Anyone else? Janet, any other lines you wanted us to provide more information on? Okay. So the last line in the public safety, the last department in the public safety section is emergency management, which is 4290, and that department is being level funded. The 2026 recommended budget is $1,002, which is the same that was budgeted in 2025. It is a separate position, but it's basically Chief LaRoche does this job also.
Not a position, just to clarify for
Okay,
the.
thank you. Yes, there's not a salary in here, there's just work that needs to be done and some money for training and.
Right.
Yes.
It's managed by the fire chief still, though.
Okay. All right. So now we're gonna go into the next section, which is the highway department, and the next 4 basically are what we would call public works. So the highway department, which is 4311, is proposed budget of $767,278. and it's just under a 2.5% increase. And I didn't flag anything that said there's no blue lines, there's no huge increases on any one specific line. So I didn't have anything to call out to share with you. And Victor's not here. Right, but if he had anything he wanted to add, so. Did any of the other committee members have anything they wanted to say?
This is almost just entirely the payroll increase.
Yeah, well, for a 4% payroll increase for the whole department, only went up 2.5, yeah, I think you're spot on there, Joe.
Yeah. Fully staffed? No? Highway department?
Yes.
I'm always hesitant to answer because things could have changed since the last time I asked that question.
I know.
As of today, yes.
We're not through winter yet.
All right, so the next section is highway projects, which is 4312. And again, this is level funded. This is, the proposed budget for 2026 is $335,001, which is the same. And this is, the great majority of this money is basically, we had in past budgets called it paving. And we've changed the name of that. It's, I think now called road maintenance?
Road maintenance and construction.
Road maintenance and construction. So this is money to, I think it's, so keep our roads drivable and safe. Not hearing any questions, I'll move on to the next section, which is street lighting and bridges, which is section 4319, and again, that is level funded, so the proposed budget for 2026 is $35,001, which is the same. So this is, like you said, we're paying a bill for the and we're still paying a contract because we upgraded the light fixtures a few years ago that we're paying off, and we're paying the bill for the electricity to run the lights, and then there's some money in a little bit in here for bridges and culverts, right?
No, there's a,
There's a
no,
different line for that.
we took.
I should be careful not to speak off the top of my head without looking at a piece of paper.
It really is basically just street lighting.
Okay.
It's the cost for the street lighting throughout town, but also we have a lease payment for the street lighting that we've updated. And we have, this year and one more year after this, and then the lease will be paid off, so.
All right. We'll get to that. I'm gonna jump in on B Street, but we'll get to that when we get to the warrant article. I think I shouldn't talk about that yet. Let me see where I'm going. And then the last section in, the last department within the public works section is solid waste disposal, which is 4324. And that is a proposed budget of $445,425. And that is a roughly just under 5.5% increase. And we talked about this when we reviewed this section, so the line that I would bring your attention to is line 120, which is the attendance. So we have a department head who's managing things, and then under him there's a number of attendants. And what we heard was that there's a, Chuck, if I get this wrong, please correct me. What I heard is there's a little bit of a turnover. What we're doing is we're gonna see some change in 25. We're gonna get somebody new on staff there who will be new to this waste treatment, who brings some good capabilities and will do a great job, but we're gonna pay him a little more money, so the line had to go up.
I'm gonna add to that.
Please go ahead.
So if you look, though, 2025, we also believe that it hadn't been budgeted correctly. So we've adjusted the budget based on the current hours of the 4 attendants. There are no additional attendants, it's the same attendance. But you can see we went over on 2025, so it did need an adjustment to make sure we were paying for the current staff at the current hours.
Okay.
Right?
Correct.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. We budgeted about 77,000, and as of the last time had a report, now the 20, just to let the public know, I've been told that we need to be careful. The books for 2025 have not been closed. So the numbers in all of our reports are current as of when the report was run, but there still could be things that are gonna get booked in through the accounting system, and these numbers can change.
We anticipate at least one more, maybe two manifests, just to close out 2025.
But at this point, I wouldn't expect that we're gonna see that employee costs are gonna get changed. It's more of materials and bills
Correct.
and services that we buy.
Unless we find a mistake, but,
Right.
so I wouldn't want to say absolutely that you wouldn't see anything there, but yes, you shouldn't see anything on employee lines, so.
But your point, what I heard you say was, if you look at the 25 budget, which was just under 77,000, and you look at what we've spent in 25, which was 82, a little over 82,000, and proposed for net 26 is 88,000, of that total increase, half of it was an overspend in 25, and half of it is some additional money for 26.
4%, and additional.
Yep. Okay. Anything else, Chuck, that you want to talk about the new compactor or anything, or is that not something to do in this meeting?
I'm good.
Okay.
We paid for that out of 2025.
I just thought maybe the vote of what the taxpayers like to know that that's happened and we found a way to do it.
I do want to make sure that the voters know there are no new positions here. The transfer station lead attendant was broken out, and that's an existing position. And then the attendants are there, and then the supervisor, and then the administrative assistant is the same position, but we broke it out and shared it with executive. It's a position shared with the executive department. So it looks like the new staff is in here. There is not, though. These are just broken out to be more defined.
Right. We had a person providing administrative support who was actually part of the planning and land use department,
Right.
and we weren't moving some of those costs into the department. Now, another person is doing it, but we didn't hire it, we're not giving more hours, but we did transfer those costs into this department's budget.
Correct.
Okay, question.
Go ahead.
Are we getting a new compactor?
We did.
We did.
I have a sort of a personal investment in this, some of you may know.
So,
Something happened to the old one, or
the
are
old
we
one was
upgrading?
almost 40 years old. It was old. So
But
it
oh,
was-
this is the weight, the solid
in this
weight,
dummy.
not the cardboard.
Not the
No,
bail.
no.
No, this is the waste compact.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
So a couple weeks ago, I put a new one in, and it's done. So
And
it
it's
looks
being
good.
paid for out of the transfer station revolving fund.
Fabulous, okay.
Right.
But so when we talked about this during the review, one of the things that I heard Chuck say was that the old, there's two compactors for general waste.
Right.
And one of them had failed, and the company came in to service it, and they basically said, we can fix it for you, but you're kind of throwing money away. This thing is gonna die. If you want it, we'll keep fixing it for you, but you probably wanna think about, and so we were anticipating that there was gonna need to be money put in the 26 budget to fund that. And because of urgency and because of I don't know all the details, I'll say because there was an opportunity that the managing people figured out. They figured out a way to find money in the 2025 system and went ahead and made it happen, so we didn't have to fund it in 26.
Okay.
Am I saying it wrong?
Yes.
That's okay, go ahead.
We did actually get an unanticipated revenue of about $38,000 that came from the Concord Regional Solid Waste Group. They sold a piece of property that we were incorporated on, and that money goes into the transfer station revolving fund, as well as recycling of aluminum and cardboard.
Right,
So we were able to use that money from the revolving fund, which was the intent,
yeah.
to pay for the compactor. So we didn't find it in the budget, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, I said it wrong, thank you for correcting me. But the big thing for me was I thought we were gonna have to find a chunk of money to put in the 26 budget to make this happen. So I was very, I didn't know, I don't know all the details, but I was very happy to find out that we didn't have to add money to the 26 budget. Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And then there's one more, I missed it. So there's a section that's called Fire Betterment, which is 4339. That's level funded, and it's $10,000 for the 26 budget year. And this is basically to operate and maintain the fire hydrant system.
It's our half of the cost.
So ideally, the plan is that the town pays for part of the cost, and the water department pays for part of the cost, and this line is the town's portion of that expense. Okay? So we'll move on to the next section. So this is the fourth parts, and this is all, so we started with the 41 series, then we did the 42 series, we just finished the 43 series. The 44 series is basically, the theme is public services. So the first one is 4411, which is Land Use and Health Office, and they have a proposed budget for 2026 of $163,615, and it is about a 3.25% increase, and I didn't see any lines in here to flag as new or drastically different or a big change, with a 4% increase for all of the employees and general inflation for other things. I'd love for the number to be smaller, but I think a 3.25% increase is not a problem, is not unreasonable. Joanne, is there anything you wanted to say, or?
No.
No, okay. The next section is animal control, which is 4414. And that is level funded, so the proposed amount for 2026 is $200, the same as last year. It's been the same for years and years, and
We dropped it, it was 400.
okay.
But
The only comment I would make is, I think Facebook has really helped us keep this line
Yes.
down. Because as
Oh,
soon
when
as
we
the
find out-
animals poster is
Yeah.
being loose, it's all over Facebook and the people come get it, so they haven't had.
Yeah, because really one dog is gonna cost way more than $200,
Yeah.
so.
well, just the initial is 250, but then it adds up how
Yeah.
long they keep them for dog, and then cat is 150 or something like that.
So I'm not on Facebook, so you're telling me if I ever get a pet, I'll have to get a Facebook?
Yes.
If you want it back, yeah.
Or you just have to have friends that will say, Paul, your dog is at the PD.
You can put a dog on Facebook and 40,000 people will see it within no time, but you put a wanted person that you're looking for.
Okay, so the next section is health agencies and hospitals. It's 4415. The budgeted amount is $33,394. It's basically level funded from last year. This is community support for outside agencies. So this is for the, well, you can see it there. It's for the Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association and the Penny Baker Hospice and Home Health Agency. I don't remember off the top of my head. And it's the same amount that we gave them last year.
They just asked for a slightly different amount.
Yes, for some reason it's $6 different, but that's because they asked for $6 less than someone suggested, and I said, no, it's $6, let's just give them what they asked for. I'll admit to being an idiot sometimes. Okay. The next section will be very quick because this is welfare administration, 4441. It basically needs to be in the budget because we show things from previous years, and in previous years there was money spent here. So administering the welfare, so the recommended amount for the 26 budget is 0. The reason for that is that it used to be a separate person, kind of a separate department, and now it's been folded into the executive department, and those functions are done, and that person exists and gets paid for out of the executive section. So the 4441, which is the cost to pay someone to administer the welfare program, doesn't exist as a separate department anymore, and 0. If you go to the next line, which is welfare services, which is 4445, that is still, that's basically the cost of providing services and aid to people who requested, and the recommended amount is $24,650. This is actually a decrease. This is what the select board recommended, and we didn't change it. I don't have anything else to say. Any question? Not hearing any, we'll move on to the next section, which is recreation. This is 4520. The recommended, the proposed budget is $133,325. I think everyone knows, but I'll point out, the town of Bristol doesn't actually have a Parks and Recreation department. We provide those services by, I don't know if the correct word is joining or participating in the regional Tapley Thompson Community Center. So this money is basically what we pay the Tapley Thompson Community Center to provide the services that they provide to the residents of Bristol.
And it's based on participation, correct?
There's a fair share formula that hasn't really changed a whole lot over the years. That was the beginning of it, and now it's whatever percentage we go up goes to all the towns the same. Unless numbers should change drastically in one of the towns, it would be adjusted.
Okay? The next section in the budget is beaches. That's 4521, and the 2026 recommended budget for this section is $46,403. It is roughly a 4.5% decrease, and I didn't have anything flagged to bring to your attention, so if you have any questions, let us know. But okay, we'll move on to the next section, which is Kelly Park. That's section 4522, and the recommended budget amount is $56,376. That's a considerable increase. It's about a 40% increase over last year. And I'll bring your attention to two lines. Line 120, which is a seasonal laborer. And so basically what we were told was that in 2025, we hired someone to work part-time to provide services in Kelly Park. So I can't list them. I don't know if anyone else can. I think they cut the grass, but they did way more than that. They did a lot of things. And what we were told was that it was really helpful, but that setting up the park in the spring, coming out of the winter when things are wet, and later in the year in the fall, getting ready, that would be really helpful to have that person. So what they proposed is extending the amount, so they'll work not more hours per week, but more weeks per year to provide more services. And just so everyone knows, I don't know, Les, if I get this wrong, please, but I think that what we see is that the Kelly Park, we get a lot of support from the Tapley Thompson Community Center that help manage that. But that the actual work is primarily done through the road department. So we've kind of, starting this year, have asked Victor Greenwood, who's our department head for the road department, to take ownership of this in the budget discussion in the budget cycle. So he came in and told us about all of that. The second line, I told you I had two. The second line is line 820, which is projects. That went up quite a bit. And what I remember hearing, and this is from memory, so if I get it wrong, please someone speak up. The two things he talked about, basically drainage and water control, and the need to do some maintenance on the area behind a backstop on, I think, the softball field. And the other thing he said that really caught my attention is he said that the really big tree on the edge of the park along North Main Street has started dropping branches, and it could be widow makers, and they've already gone in and chopped some things down. So I believe there's some money in here under projects to go in and plant some new trees, because the anticipation is within a couple of years, that tree is gonna come down. So rather than waiting to take it down and have a completely open space, I think he wants to get a couple of trees planted so they'll start growing, so they'll be in a little better shape when that big tree does come down. Did I kind of get that right?
Yeah, pretty much, and we're also planning to do a path behind the backstop, so
Oh, right,
it
yes.
connects both sides of the path, similar to what we did from the tennis court to the playground, and we're hoping to plant a couple of shade trees there as well.
We, this year they did get to plant 2 trees, and they were a little bit more money than anticipated but they replaced 2 fallen trees and that we had to remove from the park.
And will be maintained
Yeah.
under contract.
They're under the 3-year guarantee, I believe.
Okay. So that's what I have for Kelly Park. Does anyone else have a comment or does anyone have any other question? Okay. Moving to the next section, which is the library, section 4550. The recommended budget for 2026 is $304,789, and that is a 9.5% increase over last year. I have one line that I would bring to your attention, line 194. You can see that that has a pretty significant increase in it. And basically, what happened is that the person doing that job has changed, and the person who was doing it at the beginning of 2025 was budgeted for 20 hours a week, and the new person, they want to work 30 hours a week. So they are working 30 hours a week, so that's why that line went up significantly. I don't know if you have a question about any of the other lines, or if anyone else has a comment they'd like to make, but that's what I have for the library.
I will just point out the same thing on this one as the transfer station. These are all positions that existed, but they were all paid under the part-time, except for one, sorry. Youth services existed and part-time assistant substitutes existed, but the other librarian titles were broken out of the part-time line.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so the next section is patriotic purposes, which is 4583. It is the recommended amount for 2026 is $31,900, which is about a 6 2/3% increase. The 2 lines I have flagged here is line 120, which is the coordinator, so you can see I'm not consistent. That went up by $1,000, and I did flag that one, and earlier you asked about it, and I said, yeah, it's only 1,000, I didn't flag it, so. But when the whole section went up by 6.7%, I was looking for lines to flag, and that was one of the 2 I found. The other line I would bring to your attention is line 890, and that is, I forget what it's.
Patriotic purposes.
But basically what we were told is that we need new flags, new banners, flags, especially with the 250th celebration, that our current ones are worn. We were going to replace them anyway, and now with the big celebration coming, it's even more important to replace them. So there's some money in there to buy some more materials to help us celebrate our country's anniversary and support the patriotic purposes. Okay. The next section is Conservation Commission, which is 4611. The recommended budget is $2,500. It's a 4% increase, but the total amount of increase is $100. So that's an example, again, where the percentage looks significant, but the dollar amount is not significant. There's no new lines in there, there's no really new things, there's just something increased in cost a little bit. The next section is Historic District Commission, which is 4612. And the recommended budget is $650, which is the same as what was, what was in the last year's budget, the 2025 budget. So those are pretty easy. Now, this next one we'll spend a little time talking about is what is now called the Economic Committees, Section 4651. The recommended amount is $70,580, which is not even worth talking about a percentage. It's a tremendous increase. So before I get into that, well, 5,000% increase.
It says 329%, but
Oh, no, 5,329.
It is, yeah.
Okay. So in the past, this section was called Economic Development Committee. So this was the EDC, which had existed for a number of years. And basically, a couple of things happened. One is the person who was the chair and the prime driver left the town, the community. And so the committee is working, the select board is working to reconstitute it. I think they're gonna be, the new name is gonna be Economic Opportunities Committee. The Energy Committee, which didn't have a section, is now part of this. So they have some money in the budget, and they're one of the economic committees that make up the plural of committees. And then the third one, which is where the budget increase came in, is for the PEMI path, which in the past was a subcommittee of the Economic Development Committee, and is now not a subcommittee, it's its own committee. And Buzz, you want me to keep talking, or do you want to take over?
You're doing fine.
All right. I asked because Buzz is the chair of the PEMI path committee. But basically what came to happen is that I think we're at the point now where the PEMI path looks like the plane is getting ready to finally take off. The wheels are still on the ground, but it's really close to taking off. So the committee's been, the committee on the behalf of the town, with the involvement of town leadership, has been talking to the Army Corps of Engineers. They have a draft contract, which is, I think, still getting a little bit polished, but.
It got a lot more polished today. I got an email this afternoon.
See, I didn't know that, but
That we're almost there. We just need to sit
we're
down and
optimistic that we're very
document.
close to being at a point where we can sign the contract. Construction can't happen because there's also a requirement for a NEPA, which is a National Environmental Protection Act.
Policy.
Act, thank you. It's a federal acronym, and so don't worry about getting it exactly right, I'm sorry. It's basically a basic environmental check to make sure that there's no things that would be disturbed with any work done. The federal government is going to do it, but they're working to figure out how they're going to pay for it and get it done. But the big thing is that once the contract is signed, then the project becomes official, and the committee is planning to go out and do fundraising. The goal is that the townspeople will not be asked to pay any taxes to do this project, that it'll be funded through fundraising. But we're in kind of a chicken and an egg problem, is that you can't go to people and say, I want you to contribute to helping us do this project, if you can't show them what the project is. So the committee came back to us and said, we need money to do the detailed design work, to know how much, to know exactly what the path is going to be, to know how much it's going to cost, and how long it's going to take to do. So one of the things we asked is, we said, well, we understand that the committee, you haven't done any fundraising yet, you don't have any money, so you can't pay for it. So you're asking us to put money in the budget to pay for this. And what I said, I think a number of us said this, but what's the long term? I know there's no guarantees, but what's the long term? And what we got, the answer is the one I wanted, which is, if everything goes well and as anticipated, eventually they will raise funds and pay the town back for the design services. But there is a chance, if something happens and the path never gets built, we will end up paying for the design work, is what this is doing. Am I being correct and fair so far?
Yeah, just the one thing want to be careful, it's not the town that will be doing the fundraising, it will be a
Oh, no,
private,
thank you.
private effort, and then the money will be donated to the town.
Right, right.
Except the engineering fees in the budget will be a town expenditure that hopefully the private entity can raise funds to reimburse.
Right.
And when you say private entity, we're talking about a charitable nonprofit.
Yes.
So just to
Yep.
clarify.
So, I'm gonna stop for a second. Janet, does that make sense?
It does, I'm actually on the Heavy Path Committee, so I do know some of this information. It's gonna be a big flag at the meeting.
Well, and that's why I wanted to get into detail here, so that the people who are not on the committee and don't know what's going on kind of get some more information.
So my question is, this $69,000 is just for the design study? It doesn't cover anything else?
Correct.
It's gonna cost that much to do the design study?
The engineer's costs, yeah, the engineer and the design study, so.
Yes?
We actually are bringing it to the select board.
Select board is not-
Thursday night.
They're not supporting it?
No, they haven't seen it. It came to the budget committee first because we didn't have it before now, but we're bringing it Thursday to the select board, the agreement with the engineer, so we can make sure that they see it and are ready to approve it in anticipation of town meeting passing, so.
So, I will go ahead and just share a little, my own personal thoughts, is that, I mean, if we end up not getting reimbursed, I'll be disappointed. I don't really want to spend taxpayer money on designing this, but I think that the path is going to improve the town. I think not only is it gonna make it a better place, it's also gonna make the downtown more vibrant. We're gonna see more traffic. Hopefully, it's gonna help the businesses down there, which will help property values and all of that. So, as much as I don't like to spend money, I personally think that it's a reasonable investment, especially with the I'll say hope, because there's no guarantee, but the hope that if the project goes as hoped, the fundraising will raise enough money to not only build the project, but to reimburse the town for the design fees. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add something. I understand what you're saying about you didn't want the taxpayers to have to pay any of this, but if we had done a grant, which is where we were going originally, there would still be a percentage that would have had to been paid off of a grant for the town's portion of this. So, do I want it to be fundraised? Yes, but there is normally a portion that has to be offset, grants or any kind of funds that you get from other opportunities, so.
So my point is, I voted for this. I think it's the right thing for the town to do, but we'll see what everyone says at town meeting.
Paul, can I,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I would say that there's been years' worth of volunteer work that has gone into trying to make this happen, which it's unbelievable that we've been able to get together with the Army Corps and actually come to agreement on doing it. I would hate to see all those hours wasted and not support this, because so far we've had very little skin in the game. But this is an investment, in my feeling, in the future.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Okay, I think I beat that one to death. Okay, so that was economic committees, and now we'll go to outside agencies, which is 4652. So, the recommended budget amount for 2026 is $40,814. This is roughly a 6.5% increase over last year, and I think most of that is on line 575, which is the Lakes Region Mental Health group. They asked for more money, and the committee as a whole supported that request. So this just, while you're looking at that, Jen, I'll say, so outside agencies, this is basically the section of the budget where we are providing financial support for outside agencies, non-municipal entities that are providing benefits and services to the town. I can pull it out, I could read you the whole list, but it's also available in the town report, but it's things.
They're all listed in the budget, line by line.
It is in the budget. So Transport Central, the Senior Citizen Council, the Tri-County CAP, Voices Against Violence, Mental Health Center, the Penny River Local Advisory Committee, the CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates, the Passaquoddy Garden Club, NLRA, and then potentially there's a line in here for
Nope.
a garden group, but that would be offset by a grant, so that's not something we, what, no?
Yeah, we won't spend it unless
Unless we get a grant,
right.
so. No question? Okay, so that finishes that, and to that point, so you take all of this so far, and that's what we would call our general fund operations, the cost of operating the town. And I didn't say it before, but I didn't learn this until I got on the budget committee. One of the things that maybe I want to say, just to make sure that everyone in the public who's hearing is this, is that we're required to do something that's called gross appropriation. So this is not the net amount that we're going to spend over revenues. This is the total amount we're spending. So again, if you've got money coming in, either you've earned it through fees or you've got a grant coming in, you can't say, I want to buy these pieces of equipment for $50,000 and I'm getting a grant for $40,000, I'll just put $10,000 in the budget because that's all the taxpayers have to pay. You have to put if you're spending $50,000, you have to put $50,000 in the budget. And then you put in the revenue that you're getting, 40 in this example, and then the folks that do the tax calculations with the state's assistance say, okay, you're going to spend 50, but you got 40, so you need to raise $10,000 in taxes.
Thank you.
Okay? The next section is basically debt service. So we've got principal payments, interest payments, and TAN payments, and we'll go through this. I guess before we go through here, I'll try to answer any questions. Actually, I'll probably bother Christina, but this is basically paying off debts that we've entered into. So this is not something that we spend a lot of time looking at, because if we've got a bond out there, we don't really have an option to not make the payments. We gotta pay. So the first section is the principal payments on long-term debt, which is $4711, and the budgeted amount is $365,167. And you okay?
Yep.
Um,
Not so funny moment.
And if you look through here, you can see what's in here. We're still paying off the Central Square, we're still paying off the chlorination at the wastewater plant. So there's a number of things, the public safety building, the town office building, the equipment that takes care of the sidewalks when it snows, okay?
There's just one key thing to add,
You want
The
to talk
dump-
about the,
no, I was just gonna say, the dump body and plow equipment will be, this is the last payment this year,
okay?
so.
So that should come off the list. And then, handled separately is the next section, which is interest payments on the long-term debt, which is $4721. And go ahead. Okay, I thought you had a question. So the interest payment, the budget proposal for 2026 is $189,151, and it should be mostly this, well, I'll say it. Normally, it's the same list of projects. In this year, it's a little different because the Central Street sewer, I call it the pumping station. I don't know if that's collection pumping, but I don't know what Jeff calls it. But the Central Street sewer project, which is being done now, we don't have to make any principal payments until the project is completed. So in 2026, there are no principal payments, but we are taking out some loans to fund the construction, so there is a line So the zero on the principal payment for this project for 2026, there is money for principal payment on this project in 2026. Interest.
Interest.
Thank you for
Yeah.
correcting my misstatement. And then the last one is debt service on TAN. TAN is tax anticipation note, that's 4723. That's proposed amount of $18,000. That's the same amount that was in the budget in 2025. This is basically, if we get to the point where we run into another problem where the school district stops us from getting tax bills sent out and we run out of cash, we have to borrow money in order, we have a cash flow crisis, we have to borrow money to keep operations happening. This is the cost of doing that loan. I know from talking to the select board that there is an intent to be more intentional on cash flow control and try to minimize this cost. But again, I think this goes back to what Joe said. We're hoping we're not going to spend this money, but if we don't put it in the budget and then we need it, we're in a very bad place. So we put it in the budget.
Well, we are going to spend some of it already because we have an existing TAN that carried over from 2025 into 2026. We'll be paying interest on that this year.
Correct. To Christina's point, yes, that reminds me that the interest we pay on the loan in 2026 is really on the loan from the end of 2025. It's really the end of 2026 we're hoping to minimize or reduce the need for additional loan. The 2025 loan has happened already. Okay, so that section is, those three together is the total amount for debt service. And then we move on to the last section, which is the sewer and the water department, which are our enterprise funds, which by state law have to be included in this budget for the voters to vote on. So the first one is the operations of the sewer department, which is it's 4326. I'll just say it's a little confusing because some of these numbers, when you just use the 4-digit number, get reused. The difference is that all the ones we've done so far are in general town, so they actually have a 01 in front of them. The sewer has a 05 in front of it, and the water is all a 07 in front of those. But the proposed budget for the sewer operations is $587,887. It's roughly a 4.8% increase. And I flagged a bunch of lines here to bring to your attention. I looked at line 260, and I'm not sure why, but the cost for the unemployment insurance went way up. I don't know if we got reclassified or something happened, but line 292, the cost of uniforms went up a fair amount. Line 301, audit. Again, this comes back to, we talked about that some of the audit is paid for out of financial administration and part of the audit is paid for out of the sewer department because it's an audit on the sewer project because we're spending a significant amount of federal, did I misspeak?
No, I just wanted to clarify, there are audit costs in both water and sewer. They pay a portion of the regular audit, but the increase in the audit and sewer is for the one time.
Okay, thank you. Also, line 390, lab services and supplies went up. I think that's just the cost of services and inflation on services and supplies. I also would flag line 430. What we heard is that because running the sewer department down there, you use a lot of chemicals. There's a situation where if someone had chemicals spilled on them, they're supposed to be able to run into a room and pull a cord and get showered to get it all washed off of them. And in order not to shock them, you don't want to just shower them with cold water, you want to shower them with warm water. The water heater that supplies the warm water has failed. So there's money in this line to replace the water heater.
No, that's in capital projects.
Oh,
Then why does 430? All right. I'm sorry. Why does 430?
Yeah, he put the note here, but we ended up putting it in capital projects. So 430 did go up, but not just because the water heater is $18,000.
Okay.
So there may have been some adjustment here in case it fails before, or in case we have to do something before we replace the water heater. But it got moved, so sorry about the note.
All right. And then I also thought that line 637, the disinfection chemicals went up. I don't know what that is, other than something got more expensive, chemicals got more expensive.
Yes, that's pretty much it. The chemicals got more expensive. He does say
Wow.
that it's for sodium bisulfate and sodium hypochlorite.
And I didn't, but that to me is just general inflation. But I wanted to,
Yeah.
you know, if you said, why is it costing us that much more to run the sewer department? I wanted to flag those lines so you can take a look at it. Go ahead.
Can I just ask a question though? So where do they get their chemicals? Can they, is that something they can shop around with that would be cheaper, like you know, shopping for medication? Or is there just a contract for that? What is?
I can double check with Jeff. Jeff wasn't able to be here tonight, but I believe they do shop around. They use a couple of different companies, if I remember correctly. But you also have to have a company that can ship certain things like that to you
Yeah.
too, safely. So I think that they sometimes use the same vendor because they have a confidence in that vendor, but I can double check with Jeff, yep.
Okay. Any questions on sewer operations or any comments from other committee members?
Fully staffed?
No, down one position still, it's the chief water operator still, but they were down 3 positions last year at this time, so, it's exciting that they're only
Yeah.
down 1.
Good, yeah.
So I was gonna say, I know the chief water operator, but that again is a shared position, so it's also included. He
In
does
both
something,
budgets.
does some things in the sewer also.
Yeah.
Okay, just double checking. Okay, so the next section is sewer capital, which is 4327, and that is a recommended amount of $18,000. And as Christine just corrected me, that basically is the cost of putting in new water heaters for the safety system. That's actually down from last year. Last year's budget had money in it to do something else for $20,000. This year he's proposing $18,000. Next section is sewer surplus, which is 4328. So this is a line basically that estimates the difference between the revenues and the expenses. So it's a line we use to make the whole thing balance because it needs to be run on a break-even basis. So using the current estimate for 26 expenses and subtracting the current estimate for 26 revenue, you end up with a surplus of $46,053, which is there in the budget. It's actually a significant amount less than last year. But I did ask, at this point, it's not a problem, we're still running a surplus and not anticipated that anything major is gonna change, not certainly in 26.
Did the select board not have those figures, the final figures?
They did not. We did when Jeff did the revenues, we were able to calculate the final figures, so we were able to bring it to the budget committee to cut down.
Go ahead.
Does it mean that there was no surplus last year? That's why it was at 0?
No, what it means is that the final number, I don't think has been calculated yet. So the amount budgeted for, let me just,
Budgeted
The
91.
transfer wasn't, if it
So-
hasn't been done.
so it was budgeted at $104,884. But the actual amount transferred so far is 0 because I don't think they've closed the books and gotten to a final number yet.
Okay.
Am I on the wrong line? I'm on
Yeah,
water
you're on the
surplus
wrong
instead of
line.
sewer surplus, I'm sorry.
But that's, so yeah, we haven't
But
done,
my
the transfer.
logic works, just my numbers are off.
The answer's the same.
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And then sewer also has principal. Go ahead.
I was just gonna clarify too, this number could change.
Oh, will
So
it change?
so when we do the transfer, it's potential that it could be less or it could be more on the transfer because it depends if we got more revenues than we anticipated or not. So that number is sort of a placeholder, but it could change.
It doesn't reflect that there's less people on the sewer
No,
line or anything.
no.
Okay? So the next, so we did sewer surplus, the next line is sewer debt, principal payments. So that's line 4711, and that's budgeted for 2026 is $9,237. And then the next line is the interest payment on sewer debt, which is 4721, and that's budgeted for $30,388. And that interest payment, that line for the interest has gone up because we're going to, in 2026, pay some interest on the, basically the construction loan we've taken out to do the Central Street project.
The bond anticipation.
I know, but it's basically
And we-
construction loan.
And we have taken money, we did start to take money now,
Yes,
so.
yep. So that's the sewer department. So if you want to go back and double check, when we finish the whole budget, we'll also do revenues. If you go back and get the revenue number out of the, for the sewer department out of the revenue report, and you look at all the other expense numbers here for 26 for the sewer department, and you subtract one from the other, you should get that surplus. You will get that surplus line. And now we're gonna do the same thing for the water department. So the first line in the water section is water, the operations cost of running the water department, which is $43.31, and the proposed budget for 2026 is $546,347, and that is roughly a 4.5% increase, and I got kind of the same things flagged. The unemployment went up, which is line 260. The cost of uniforms look like they've gone up on line 292, and line 610 for material and supplies have gone up. I don't know about unemployment, that's to me probably someone has changed the cap classification in some way, but uniforms and materials and supplies, I expect is normal inflation, everything's costing more. Just go ahead. Please.
I think there might be a typo on this version, and just to make sure we fix it.
Yep.
Right above the water department, it says warrant article 13C.
Yeah, they have to, sorry. So it has to say warrant article 13C because that, it won't print in order. So this is
Okay.
warrant article, I'll double check and make sure it's the
I
right
think,
warrant
I think the
article.
general stuff is 13A, the debt service is 13B, and the sewer, water sewer is 13C. Otherwise, it sorts it differently.
Got
And
it, okay.
But, okay, it is the right warrant article. So A, B, they have to go in order or they won't print, right?
Got it.
And so,
Okay. Thank you.
okay. So that's water operations. And any other questions or comments? Okay, next section is water capital, which is 4332, and that is the budget proposal is $10,500. I don't have any notes here. I don't have any comments to make. So it looks like it's the SCADA system upgrade and then getting the epoxy fluid done, which was proposed for last year but not done. Okay, so the next line is water surplus, 4333. This is the same thing. It's an estimated number. It's a number that's that balances revenues and expenses. The proposed for 2026 is $53,895. The actual year-end number will certainly be different. It'll be whatever it is when we close the books, when we finalize all the expenses and all the revenues. The last two sections are debt, so principal payment on water department debt, 4711, is $57,202. And that's two projects. We're still paying off Central Square, and then it just says water bond, which is gonna go to 3031. And then we also have interest payment on those same debts, which is section 4221, and that is $4,136. So you have the general operating costs with the debt service, with the water and sewer. You get to the bottom line, which is what the voters will vote on at town meeting of $10,489,158. As I said, that's a 5.75% increase over the warrant article from 2025. I think we're done with the expense budget part of the meeting. Anyone else have a comment or anything they want to share? Okay, so now we will go on to revenues. And I didn't print those out, so I'm going to have to do those on the computer. That's no, that's okay.
Okay, you can use that. Chuck, let you.
No, thank you. But I guess I'm gonna go back to, I think it was Brian's comment. I mean, it's not just municipal, it's anything. I know I'm the treasurer for my condominium association, I did the same thing. At the beginning of the year, you try to be fair and correct, but if you're not sure, you aim low on revenues, and if you're not sure, you aim high on expenses, because you want to make sure you don't get to the end of the year in a really bad place. So I think you can see here, well, if you look at the columns from 25 budget, 25 actual, you can see the end of the year numbers. Not always, but typically exceed the beginning of the year estimate. So we're back to a beginning year estimate for 2026, and all these numbers are in here. I think that it's important, but I think in some respects it's not something I spend a lot of time worrying about, because I feel like I have very little control over this. We are required to review them and approve them, but it's not that we're gonna go and say, hey Chuck, we want more money, so let's just guess that you're gonna deliver what's, that wouldn't be reasonable.
I think maybe a way to phrase it too is a lot of these revenues and rates and so forth are set not necessarily under the purview of the budget committee. These are
Correct. These are,
fees that are established through ordinances and things of that nature. So it's not something we have a whole lot of authority to change. The underlying policies that actually generate these revenues.
thank you, Joe.
I would just add to that the revenues, when we go to set the tax rate, are adjusted. At that time, we have to submit estimated revenues first, and then we review and get as close as we can to where we think the year is going to finish,
Sure.
and use that number to offset the tax.
Your October, or whatever month it is, numbers are more accurate than the number we have here in the beginning of the year.
And just to help the public out, Joanne, has history shown that the actual revenues received are equal to or higher than what was estimated?
Are you, sorry, you talking to me?
Yes, has history shown that the actual revenues that are received in a year
Yeah,
are equal to or higher than what was estimated?
history's higher, so, than what is estimated.
Almost always.
Yeah. We're getting closer to the number, as you see. We're getting closer with what we estimate, because, I mean, it's roughly 277,000 for, on 2025. Usually it's a bigger difference, so.
Okay. So, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember what we've done in past years. Do I just go through this line by line?
I don't know if that's warranted.
Good, I was hoping I didn't have to do that.
I was gonna say, I would point out, there is one change since you saw the draft. The board voted on these at their last meeting. So the draft that was presented to you under 3501-100, which is on page 5, we did reduce, we're not anticipating that if we sell, there's a property that we are potentially going to be selling, it's not going to bring in $200,000. So it was reduced to 50,000 is the thought, if we do get to sell the property that we're planning, so. But that's the only change since you saw the drafts at your last meeting.
So I think what I'd like to do is, obviously, if you have any questions, we will address them. But I think what I'm going to do is jump down to the bottom and talk about the bottom line. But for the people who might be looking at this remotely, Christina, can we post this on the budget committee webpage or somewhere on the town's webpage, so people who are not here at the
Forgot
meeting
to
tonight
post it.
have access to these numbers if they want to go and look at them?
If you go to the home page, there's a button that's 2026 election and town meeting information. It will be posted there. I forgot to post revenues. Everything else is posted there. The budget's there, the warrant articles are there. So I'll make sure I get the revenues added.
Okay, so we'll add the revenue so that it won't be on our budget committee subpage, it'll be on.
Well, we link
When you go to the
it to
main,
your page.
when you go to the main page,
Christina.
click on the information about the 26 elections and it's in there.
So that is linked to your page as well.
Yeah.
If it isn't, we'll make sure it is, but if you click on the button, it has information on voting. The warrant, elections and town meeting is the next section. If you roll down, and I'll link the budget up at the top now, but if you roll down, it's
Good.
more.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that anybody in the room that is watching this, if they want the detail and look at it,
Yeah.
that they have it available.
And I'll make sure I post the revenues ASAP.
Thank you. So I'm just going to jump down to the bottom.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
On Newfound Winter Maintenance, SAU, is that?
Can you give us a line number?
Oh, I'm
Stan?
sorry, it is 3503-200, rents of property.
Yep. I gotta change the title on that.
Yeah, but
Um,
is that coming in or?
We're gonna have it, right now we have it as a liability. We did not bill them because we were behind on paying the school payment.
Right.
We are caught up for 2025 paying the school payment, so we'll bill them and we'll be able to book it.
Awesome.
Paul, I do have a question as well.
Go ahead.
On the first page, Joanna, is it
So,
under,
I'm sorry.
Christina?
It's
Christine, I'm sorry, 3210, the cable franchise fee it's showing a 0 actual receipt, so is that accounts receivable? You just haven't received the funds for $50,000?
It's booked as liability right now, but there may be a delay on this because we are in the process of renewing the franchise fee. So they haven't paid yet. So yes, we anticipate we're gonna get it. We just don't know what the amount will be for sure yet.
So it's a receivable, not a liability.
Yes. I call it a liability because I'm expecting it to come in, but you're right, sorry.
And do you expect it to come in about what it's being portrayed as?
I think it's gonna be a little lower. Because the users are dropping as part of the cable franchise fee. It's based on the users, and so the number of users is reducing with the franchise fee that we have, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so just for the record, I'll go through the fact that the estimated, or I guess budgeted revenues, the proposed budgeted revenues for the 2026 year are $4,185,907. That compares, I'll say for the record, it compares back to a year ago at this meeting. The estimate for the 2025 revenues was $4,100,264. And I think this, again, the 25 books are not completely closed, so it's subject to change, but this should be pretty accurate. The actual 2025 revenues are currently $4,377,771. So 4.1 was the estimate last year, 4.4 roughly is the actual number for last year, and a little less than 4.2 is the estimate for 26 at this time. Is that a fair recap of where we are? So that's where revenues go. And I think the point to be made is that the revenues really it becomes important to have the correct revenue number in the fall when the tax rate gets set. And that's what Christina and the with the help of the state and working with the select board, we'll make sure it happens. Any other questions on revenues? Okay, we'll move on to the proposed warrant. So, I gotta be careful here, because I just had looked at this, and I was surprised when I read this today and saw Article 12.
Yeah, you probably didn't, I will explain, you probably didn't see the Article 12 before, because Article 12 was previously Article 2. When we were discussing this, Article 2 was for social districts. We were told that it needed to be on the official ballot, but that is for cities. Towns apparently have to have it on the ballot, but as a ballot vote at town meeting is sufficient, so we were told to move it. So Article 1 through Article 11, those are your officers and your zoning amendments, and then, yes, you'll begin with Article.
So 1 through 11, the voters will vote on that on the Tuesday election, and starting with Article 12, we'll vote on these at the town meeting on Saturday at the auditorium. So Article 12 is to see if the town will allow the operation of social districts within the town of Bristol. Ballot vote required. This is...
What does this mean?
So this is the idea that basically, I heard Laconia is doing this, I didn't know Bristol was looking at it. They're basically going to say that you can set up a district that now you can go into an establishment and get yourself an alcoholic beverage. Right now, you can't leave the premise with that alcohol. If you set up a district, you can walk around in the district with a beverage in your hand, is the way I understand it. Did I get that right?
Correct. There are really strict guidelines that will be set, so there will be regulations, there will be boundaries set. The town is currently looking at 2 districts potentially downtown and out near the shore drive on the beach. So we have to have a public hearing. We'll be holding a public hearing on February 19th. And then if it passes with the voters, this just gives the voters voting yes just gives the board permission to set those districts up and set the regulations on them.
So I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on this because it doesn't spend any money, and therefore we don't get to vote on our recommendations for it. But it's part of the warrant, so
Just to explain what it is.
I need to explain
Yeah.
it because it's part of the warrant and we have to go through the warrant.
Right.
So Article 13 is the big one for us, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee's recommended sum of $10,489,158 for general municipal operations. The select board recommends $10,495,768. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. A majority vote required. So later tonight, before we all get to go home, we will have to vote on our recommendation on whether this should be, the voters should approve this or not. And then on Thursday evening, the select board will vote on their recommendation. This is the only one where we go first. All the ones coming up later, the select board, I believe, have already recommended, and we will recommend after them. So we just spent a bunch of time talking about how we got to that $10,489,000. I don't think there's a need to discuss this further. But I say that, if you disagree, speak up, is what I'm trying to say. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further to raise and appropriate $30,000 to put in the fund. This sum to come from unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Majority vote required. So we will have to vote on this. I think this is a standard article that is done every year, although in past years it's been 25, so the recommended amount has been increased from $25,000 to $30,000 this year. Any questions? Not hearing any, we'll go on to Article 15. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be added to the Patriotic Recreation and Special Events Expendable Trust Fund established in 2020. Majority vote required. So this is basically fireworks. Yes, go ahead.
Just one little side note on this. The board did decide that we move forward with trying to pick a later date.
Which I'm negotiating now.
So this, what I was gonna say, I'll just, this is fairly standard. I think because the fireworks cost money and some people have strong opinions of it, we have now for a number of years not put this money in the budget, but put it on a separate warrant article so that it has good visibility and the voters know that they get to vote on it. I think that what I've heard of the challenge now, and I don't off the top of my head remember, I think 30,000 is a little higher, but again, where it's the 250th year, it was potentially going to be a bigger show. The problem is that we haven't found a vendor, we haven't signed a contract. We haven't signed a contract, and at this point, everyone who wants fireworks on Independence Day has booked it.
I will.
All right, I'm saying it wrong. I will stop.
I will clarify. The fireworks is gonna cost more next year no matter what. I mean, this year, sorry.
Yep.
No matter what, because it's the 250th anniversary. So that's part of the increase that you see there. We have a vendor, we're back with Pyrotechnico. We will not be having it on the 4th of July though. But the board felt very strongly about still having a show, even if it couldn't be on the 4th of July, because people plan and anticipate that. So that's why we're leaving the warrant article in. I should, knock on wood, have a contract with the current vendor. It would be obviously pending town meeting vote, but I should have that, I think, in the next couple of weeks, so.
Well, I think just,
Yep, I've been
I
working.
think to Scott's point, this is not really a budget committee driven thing. The select board will probably be the ones talking at the meeting about it. And so
Correct.
I'm reading it into the record because I have to, but I
And you have to
wasn't.
vote.
And we have to vote on it.
And we will, yes, we'll do our recommendation vote after the public meeting. Anything else, Scott, on the fireworks one? I think that was, so,
No, I
we
just-
don't have a date yet, but we know it's not gonna be July, Independence Day.
Now, Christina, I think as soon as we finalize it, we need to get it out to the public
Yeah.
so that they can plan ahead.
He did, and he's responded.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll have something more for the board Thursday. Jan had a question.
I just wanted to say, I'm gonna go, but I just wanted to say, I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. And I will look for explanations on the warrant articles.
Yeah.
Hopefully, people will be discussing them. I know we're not gonna discuss them here. So I'm gonna just go home and review them myself.
All right, thank you for coming out.
I really so much appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
I am working on it. Donna inspired me. I'm working on a voter's guide for the warrant articles. Donna did one for the zoning amendments, but I'm gonna have the board look at it Thursday first before I put that out to the public. But I should have a voter's
Very
guide.
helpful, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Can I just add one thing about the fireworks?
Yes, please go ahead.
They're almost never on the 4th.
Yeah.
We've never been able to afford what it would cost to do them on the 4th. So they could be on the 3rd, they could be on the 5th. It's a crapshoot. So I don't think people will care that it's not on the 4th. I think they just appreciate.
I understand what you're saying. I just thought it was the point that now it's not just gonna be plus or minus a day or two. It's probably gonna be weeks different.
Nope, I think it's gonna be the following weekend currently.
Okay.
But don't write that down
Yeah.
if you're listening until I know for sure.
More information to come, and we'll move on. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $166,895 for the Beach Street Culvert Replacement Project, including permitting, site preparation, roadway construction associated with the culvert work, drainage improvements, materials, and construction services, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any and all actions necessary to carry out this project. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the project is completed or by December 31st, 2031, whichever is sooner, majority vote required.
So this wording is different from the draft that you saw. This is, the Department of Revenue recommended a change on the wording, and that's why you see the non-lapsing. The anticipation is if this passes, it will be done, but if something delayed it, they recommended that we put this wording in just to be safe.
Okay. So again, we'll have to vote on this later in the meeting tonight. Victor's not here, but we did spend time talking to him, and he explained the details and why this is not a nice to have, but a must have, and I'm expecting he will be at town meeting to advocate for this, so I don't think we can spend a lot of time. Go ahead, Joe.
Can I just ask Paul, because I know in prior years when we've had no attendance, like at this point we have nobody from the public attending.
Yeah.
Do we have to go through everything? Because we've already reviewed the warrant, right? We already know it.
So we did get feedback at a meeting that we didn't touch base on everything.
Okay.
In the public hearing. Do you have to go in with great detail? I don't think you have to, but we do have to touch base on it during your hearing, in case somebody's watching the live or, yeah, that's what happened last year.
So that's my understanding, Joe. We don't have to discuss this, but I think I have to read each of the warrant articles, or somebody has to read them, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll try to go quicker then.
Oh,
Okay, Article 17, to see if the town will vote to amend the existing ambulance replacement revolving fund established by the town meeting vote in 2014, such that the purpose of the fund shall be to replace ambulances and motorized firefighting apparatus, and that up to the first $500,000 of ambulance patient proceeds shall be placed in the fund each year. The money shall still accumulate from year to year and shall not be considered part of the town's unreserved fund balance. The town treasurer shall still have custody of all money in the fund and shall pay out the same only upon order of the select board, and no further approval is required by the legislative body to expend. The balance of the fund shall still be included in the town report each year. Such funds may be expended only for the purpose for which the fund was created. A majority vote is required. Chief, I don't know if you stayed here to talk about this. Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to just do it at town meeting? You want to take a few minutes to talk?
No, so I would just real quick hit
Thank you.
a couple of things. So the first isn't a little bit later than I hoped to. I got some stuff to Cade that hopefully will get up soon, but I'd never make his life easy, so of course it's in some format that's not really working out. Kind of similar to last year where it's really just a PowerPoint that's narrated. So even though it is about 20 minutes of me droning on, I would certainly encourage people that want and need more information on this to look at it, and hopefully that'll be out soon, and certainly before town meeting. We'll figure it out. So I just would hit in this particular meeting, not as kind of long as during the budget discussion, but it starts with fire trucks are $1 million, and that's just a reality that every municipality and every fire department is dealing with really across the country. I'd just like to say once again, this is not the fire chief wanting all the bells and whistles and some fancy high-end fire truck. This is low bid, the replacement for engine 2, which is upon us, and will hopefully get ordered soon and be here in a couple of years. Will look very identical to the current truck that we have, and that truck has served the town very well for the last 20 years and should continue to serve it very well for the next couple of years, up to a handful of years until we actually take delivery of it. So that's the tough reality that we're in. That's probably the bigger reason that we're behind in savings, is that really over the last 5 to 6 years, we've seen from our pricing about a 78% increase in the cost. That's a ton. But that's what everybody is seeing. So one, our plan never called to see $1 million fire truck when it came time to replace it. It called for $500,000 to $600,000 fire truck when it came time to replace it. The other thing is that through the current savings plan with the capital reserve fund, we've kind of always treated that as such a long-term thing. It was an opportunity to cut some costs over the years. So we defer a payment 1 year, with a plan to maybe double pay the next year, or we'd look at a $100,000 number and say, well, it's still 13 years out or whatever from the truck being purchased, let's do 75 this year and save a few dollars. And so you combine those two things together, and we're just not in a position where we have $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million in the bank and can purchase that truck now, which is what needs to happen. So it really puts us into a position long-term, not only with engine 2's replacement upon us, but the ladder's coming up shortly thereafter in engine 4, to start saving about $400,000 to $500,000 more than what we're currently saving. Maybe a little bit less than that, but so the idea behind this is that where we're so far behind and we're upon that purchase, the town's really left with two options to take care of this, which is one, to finance it. And if we finance it, then we're probably in a position where we're financing all three of those pieces over the next 12, 15, 20 years. Or to really look at what the savings need to be and say that's the better use of the money, where we're not going to incur those finance charges, but we got to be realistic and we have to have a plan and stick to it. And so the idea is to look at the ambulance revolving fund, which has been super successful. That was also started in 2014. So in that 12 years, we've replaced 2 ambulances. We still go through a process. We go out to bid and we look at multiple manufacturers and we take the best prices and we work with them as far as customization and how we can get the price to its lowest point possible. And then go to the board, request the purchase order be signed, the ambulance gets ordered, and now, kind of like fire trucks, it takes forever to get one, so 2 or 3 years later, we see the ambulance. That revolving fund is set up such that it's like direct deposit. We're gonna vote on it, hopefully the voters agree that this is the best way to move forward. We'll make that deposit of $500,000, and then we won't have to look at this again, really probably for about another 9 years, until that fund might need to be adjusted upward. And so we can, as a town, the board and the fire department, say there's $500,000 going into that fund every year that we're gonna be able to order the ambulances on time, order the fire trucks on time, and have the funds available for when they arrive. So it's a good revenue stream. We've been over that $500,000 for a number of years now. We don't really anticipate, even with some stuff going on in Concord, that we'll drop below that $500,000. We'll have that money there. I guess that's the big highlights. One will explain it better at town meeting, but I think that video explains it fairly well. But certainly to get your recommendation, I'm happy to answer any questions or explain it better.
I'm gonna go home and watch that video tonight.
It's not I'll send it to you. It's all choppy and doesn't make any sense or something.
All right. Very good, so that's Article 17. Article 18 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $395,000 to be added to the following capital reserve funds previously established with a majority vote required. Accrued wages, capital reserve fund, $15,000. Assessment, reval, capital reserve fund, $45,000. Fire equipment, capital reserve fund, $50,000. Highway equipment, capital reserve fund, $180,000. Police vehicle capital reserve fund, $80,000. Town building maintenance capital reserve fund, $25,000. Should I didn't check. I assume those add up right. Okay.
Double check.
Yeah, that got corrected, right?
Yeah, I thought.
I think so. So let's
I
see.
did.
It was yeah, it was
It
$395.
was $395.
Because you had like 410 or something like that.
Yep, okay.
You guys are making me second guess, but
Yes.
yes, I corrected.
Okay, moving on. Article 19, shall the town adopt the provisions of RSA 72:35 for an optional tax credit of $2,500 for a service-connected permanent and total disability on residential property, majority vote required. This is not something we get to vote our recommendation on, I don't believe. Article 20, shall the town modify its elderly tax exemption consistent with provisions of RSA 72:39-A from property tax assessment in the town of Bristol based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers to be as follows. For a person 65 years of age up to 75 years, $35,000. For a person 75 years of age up to 80 years, $55,000. For a person 80 years of age or older, $75,000. To qualify, the person must have been a New Hampshire resident for at least 3 consecutive years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such person's spouse, they must have been married to each other for at least 5 consecutive years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $25,000, or, if married, a combined net income of less than $45,000, and own net assets not in excess of $70,000, excluding the value of the person's primary residence. And again, we don't vote a recommendation on this. Go ahead.
Instead of you having to read Article 21 and Article 23, they're the same information, it's just Article 21 is the tax exemption for the disabled. And so it's the same information as you just read. And then the Article 23 is the tax exemption for the deaf or severely hearing impaired persons.
Okay, so Article 21 is the same information, but instead of being for elderly people, it's for disabled people. And Article 23 is the same information for deaf or severely hearing impaired persons. So I'll go back to Article 22. Shall the town modify its tax exemption for the blind, consistent with the provisions of RSA 72:37, to allow an inhabitant who is legally blind as determined by the Blind Services Program to be exempt each year on the assessed value for property tax purposes of his or her residential real estate to the value of $45,000. Okay. And then we got just one more to go, right? And again, we're not going to vote on that, the recommendation. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to adopt RSA Chapter 53-F and establish a commercial property assessed clean energy and resilience district, which shall encompass the entire area within the boundaries of the town of Bristol, whereby properties within the boundaries of the district may fund qualifying improvements to real property through private lenders as a result of an assessment agreement between the property owner and the town of Bristol, and further to authorize the select board to execute all documents and perform all municipal functions in accordance with RSA Chapter 53F, and further to authorize the select board to enter into special assessment agreements with qualifying property owners. Somebody else will show up at meeting to explain that, and we don't vote on it, so I'm not gonna spend any more time on it.
It's, the Energy Committee
I-
asked the
I-
board to put this on the warrant,
I do-
so
I
they're
do
just
know
speaking to that, so.
Yeah.
If you have questions, I can.
I just wanna know what it exactly means. What does it mean?
Anybody who is going to install,
Like solar panels?
it could be solar panels, there's a list of them. There were different things that they were allowed to, you could apply for consideration for a reduction on your assessed value. Correct me, Jimmy, because you helped with this. Your assessed value, but it becomes a lien on the property. It's not a lien held by the town, it's a lien held in agreement with, I'm putting you on the spot. It's, no, it's, there's a,
Finance authority?
Finance authority.
thank you. So, they're gonna do the majority of the work for this. There will be some tracking that the town would have to do. It's supposed to be a minimal impact on the assessing department, but, we don't know what that impact will truly be until we see what happens with this. Paul Bemis will be speaking to this article at town meeting. He has gone out and talked to businesses that are very interested in pursuing this. But it will be, what the board agreed to do was set it the whole boundary of the town. So it could be anywhere, it's not just downtown, that people could look into this and potentially make improvements that they could save some, value or taxes on their property, so. Did I miss anything, Scott?
More.
Deferring.
I was gonna ask,
I'll defer to Paul.
Buzz, are you still on the energy committee?
Yes, but this is Paul thing.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know if I did anything beginning, so as far as I understand, that's basically the end of the public hearing. Thank you all of you for attending. And now we'll go on to finishing the business that we need to do. So thank you for department heads for being here. If you want to stay, you're certainly welcome to, but not required.
So I think she did already.
I'll
She
make
did,
a
yeah.
motion to close the public.
I was just gonna ask Christina that exact question. Do I need to, okay. Do you want to do that, Joe, or you want me to?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to close the public meeting by Scott, seconded by, by Joe, seconded by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes 7-0. Okay, so we're done with the public meeting.
guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, have a good night yourself. Do we need to have at this point now a motion to approve the bond warrant? Following?
Well, it's a warrant article, so you could just do it as the warrant article if you wanted.
It's a motion to recommend.
Yes.
But we do have to do a motion to
So that would be the amount of
revenue.
Recommend.
figure compared to
Joe.
last year.
To recommend.
It's not an also,
Okay.
so
Motion to
then
recommend,
it's
right?
just under general
Yes.
information.
Recommend it.
website.
Accept what it's saying.
So what we're
Recommend
looking
the
at
number.
actually,
Yeah.
do you
Okay,
understand where I'm coming at?
Yeah.
So
you wanna do it?
last year's
I'll do
compared
it.
to this year.
Make a motion.
The budget.
I'm making a motion that the select board recommend acceptance of the 2026 revenue estimate. Does that sound right?
Well, your recommendation is from the budget committee, so you're recommending
To the select board.
To the select board, yeah, you said this, like, yeah.
Okay, I got it.
you're tired.
Yeah, I guess I am. Okay, so we're recommending, we're voting to recommend to the select board that they accept the revenue estimate.
We don't have to do a motion to recommend on the revenues, just all the
Wait, you have to
warrants.
approve them.
Yes.
So
Right.
You do.
I'm sorry, I confused that for everybody, that's my bad.
So I know we have to go through the warrant articles and vote on some of those for our recommendation, but I know we also have to do something with the revenue, so I was trying to punch that out first. So,
I think that is just vote to approve.
so we're gonna vote to approve
Yeah.
the revenue estimate. The budget committee is voting whether or not, voting to approve the revenue estimate.
It does say you should put the exact, the amount in, so, from what I found here, so.
Okay.
So, the budget committee, that's the budget, where's my revenues?
Do you want me to make a motion, Paul?
Yeah, go ahead, you got it. Here I go. Here
I'll
I
make a
go.
motion to approve the bottom line revenues for 2026 in an amount of $4,185,907.
I'll say.
Second.
Motion by Joe, seconded by Sue, to approve the revenue estimate of $4,185,907. Not hearing any comments, we will now have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against or abstained? None, 7-0, that passes. Okay, so we're done with revenues. We don't have to vote again on the budget, we've done all that. And now what we need to do is go through the warrants and vote on our recommendations of things that the voters want or that we're allowed to vote a recommendation on. So I'll start at the top with Article 13, which is our warrant article for the budget for the $10 million. So we're going to vote on our recommendation to the voters at town meeting to recommending approval of Article 13 for the $10,489,158. Can I get a second to that?
Second.
The buzz guy.
I guess Buzz. Motion by Paul, second by Buzz, to recommend approval of Article 13. Anyone, any comments? Not hearing any, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against or abstaining? No, passes 7-0. Okay, so now we'll go to the next one. The next one is Article 14, which is the contingency fund for $30,000. I'll make a motion that the Budget Committee recommend the voters approve Article 14 to create a contingency fund for $30,000.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Les. Not hearing any comments, we'll now vote. All in favor? Aye. Against or abstain, none, 7-0, that passes. Article 15. I'll make a motion that the Budget Committee recommend to the voters that they approve Article 15, which is to raise and appropriate $30,000 to be added to patriotic recreation and special events, which is typically referred to as fireworks.
A second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Sue. Yeah, I guess I'm tired. I didn't realize I was. Does anyone, potentially, someone could have a comment. Does anyone have a comment? Anyone want to say anything? Everyone ready to vote? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, abstained, passes 7-0, okay? Article 16. I'll make a motion that the Budget Committee recommends to the voters at town meeting that they approve Article 16, which is to raise and appropriate the sum of $166,895 for the Beach Street culvert replacement. I don't think I need to read the whole article, that's enough.
Seconded.
I'm trying, Joe. Motion by Paul, seconded by Joe, to recommend approval of Article 16. Not hearing any comments, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, none. Abstained, none. Passes 7-0-0. Okay. Now we get to the
big one.
big one. Then she can go home after this. Article 17, I'll make a motion to I'll make a motion for the Budget Committee to recommend to the voters at town meeting that they approve Article 17, which is to amend the existing ambulance replacement revolving fund and to change the purpose for not just ambulances, but to include motorized firefighting apparatuses, and that up to the first $500,000 of ambulance proceeds shall be placed in the fund each year without further vote by the voters, based by the select board.
A second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Sue. Thank you. I'm gonna slow us down a second and make a comment. I'm really conflicted on this myself. I really understand that if we wanna buy all this equipment, I don't wanna see it bonded and pay interest on debt, and that doing this makes sense. But we keep talking about that we can afford a $2 million fire department because we have all this revenue to offset the operation. And we're basically gonna take that revenue away and put it into this. I asked, I'm not asking you to get, I hope you're not gonna get upset. I asked the chief a number of years ago, probably as part of the CIP, I don't think it was a budget committee one, but for example, the ladder truck is really expensive and, you know, could we get by without one? And I can't give you all the detail he gave me, but he basically said, no, we really need a ladder truck. So I kind of think we need to do this. I'm probably gonna vote for it, but I'm just not as enthusiastic it's not as easy as a vote as it was on the other ones. So I'll stop rambling now. Anyone else want to make a comment before I call a vote?
I think this is really dependent, like, to the chief's point, the cost is the cost, right? We don't really get to set what the cost of a fire truck is anymore. So I think that's the part that we all struggle with and probably don't like, but it's the reality. And so if we don't do this, it's putting us on a path to essentially not have a functional fire department anymore, right? And so the voters, I think, have for decades supported the notion that they want a fully capable, functional fire department. And so that's really where I feel like I do support this, because this is either we have one or we don't, right? You can't have a fire department with no trucks. It just doesn't work. So
I will also add that this is trying to eliminate paying interest on a loan on a truck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so in the long run, it's a saving. It's a saving.
that definitely moves me towards a yes. Yep. Okay. Any other comments from members before we call a vote? Okay, so we're voting to recommend approval of Article 17. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes 7-0-0. See, for all that moaning and groaning, I still voted yes.
You just wanted to make him squirm more.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to make it squirm, but I want it. All right, I'll try to be faster. So we get to vote on 18. So I'll make a motion that the Budget Committee recommends to the voters at town meeting that they approve Article 18, which is to raise and appropriate the sum of $395,000 to be added to the 6 specified capital reserve funds.
Second.
You
No,
comment?
second, I have comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so motion by Paul, seconded by Scott, and now Scott would like,
Stu.
seconded by Sue, and now Scott would like to make.
So I would just like to point out that normally we do set aside more money on the fire equipment line, traditionally in years past, but with the
Yep, that's,
previous warrant article, this line is now lower, right? And it's being moved into the separate fund.
right.
in the
Article
separate
18 has been
article.
reduced because it's anticipating that 17 will.
Right, but that's another talking point also that, how much do we traditionally put in there in the past?
This was
Maybe
a,
100?
It
This
was
is 100
100 last year, and it was scheduled for the CIP to be 180,000 this year. And I would just say, I cover that kind of in the presentation, and I covered it the other day when I was in here, but that fund is still very important to fund the big projects that are also coming that are not vehicles, being the hydraulic tools, Jaws of Life that are coming up in like 2 years, I think. And then really in about 9 years from now, we'll have to replace all the departments' SCBA, and that's gonna be like $450,000 to $600,000. So as much as it seems like if we've shifted, if we do shift the fire truck purchasing to the other revenue account, we could stop funding. That's not the only purpose for that capital reserve fund, so it's still important to maintain that for those purchases. But it is lower than initially recommended.
Okay. Any other comments? We'll go ahead and vote. So we're voting to recommend the voters approve Article 18. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, none, 7-0-0. Don't think we voted any other articles. No, we don't. Okay, so we're done with our recommendations, we approve revenue warrant articles. Try to do this quickly. Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting on January 20th. Has everyone had a chance to look? Does anyone have any, wait. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 20th, 2026 meeting of the Bristol Select Board.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Les.
You're Bristol Select Board now, not Budget
Did I say
Committee.
Select Board?
Oh, did you say select board on this?
All right, yes, Budget Committee, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
Put it down, Budget Committee, please.
No, second.
Okay,
You are.
I didn't realize wow.
He's had to do a lot of reading.
All right, any corrections?
Buzz?
He's exhausted.
Well, since I had this meeting down for next Tuesday, which is why I wasn't here, I haven't read.
Oh! Slacker.
So what I'd like to do, since this is the last meeting, the next meeting will be the organizational meeting, probably in April of the new committee. I would like to approve them now, and if somebody in the meantime sees something significant they want changed, we'll reopen them in April and do them now, but I wouldn't want to leave them unapproved. If you disagree, you can vote against, but that's my suggestion at this point.
Okay.
So not hearing any changes, we will vote on approving the Budget Committee minutes for the January 20th, 26th meeting as currently written. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, none, 7-0. Correspondence, I have none. Anyone have any correspondence? Nope. Didn't think so. Comments? We'll start as usual with Select Board. Anything else? Do you need us to, do you want or need us to show up Thursday night?
What?
No?
Okay,
You
just
don't
check.
have, I'm sure you'll be there, just,
They just have to vote on the budget.
yeah, no.
Okay.
It's,
You know,
I've been keeping them up to date as we've made changes weekly anyways. I don't think I have anything to put out to you that I hadn't already. I mentioned the fireworks. That was the biggest thing, so we had, in prior meetings, we had mentioned like,
Yes,
a
we did
struggle.
talk about that.
So we'll move forward down the other path and hopefully the voters pass it, so. I
Sounds
don't
good.
think there's anything else.
All right, if you think of something, raise your hand, we'll come back. We'll come down the table. Les, anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, Brian?
I'm good.
Buzz? Joe?
Nothing.
No.
Sue? Christina, anything?
Mhm.
Okay. So we're done. We had a backup meeting for tomorrow, which obviously we don't need, so our next time we need to get together is for town meeting on Saturday at the high school.
March 11th? or-
14.
March 14th.
It's close.
I will say, just if, I don't know if everyone knows, so I want to make sure you know, we do have 2 candidates that registered to run for positions on the Budget Committee. So Buzz is one of our 2 candidates, the other one, and I keep forgetting his last name, I've only met him once, Mark Barassa. He's not currently, I don't believe, involved, but he's looking to get involved in a number of different things. I pulled him up, he was in the planning meeting on Wednesday, and I was here for something else. I came down and pulled him out, invited him to come, I thought he'd be here tonight. I told him that we would be having a candidates forum, and he said great, and so we'll see what the voters say, but I'm assuming he will join our committee next year. As usual, or as we've done for the past year or 2, I will schedule an organizational meeting probably in April, probably the second half after tax season ends, to get us organized and talk. So it would be helpful for those of you who are planning to be continuing on the committee, bring your planning calendar. So we'll probably, when the meeting ends and the new people get sworn in, try to grab a minute or 2 and just see if we can pick a date that works for everybody, or at least the majority of people, rather than me just picking a date. I think that's it for me.
I just want to add, March 10th is for your voting on officers and zoning amendments. It is at the high school in the gymnasium from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then March 14th is at the high school, but in the auditorium, so.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Joe to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 8:32. Thank you.